Welcome back. Prophecy is unfolding at such a fast rate, it's almost hard to keep up with. Breaking news coming out of Europe at the moment, and I wanted to share with you why it's so important that we see these things and we actually look to prophecy and see them aligning up to what Scripture says. You know, Europe at the moment is an absolute melting pot in terms of the leaders. It's having the Trump effect. You know, and I always tell people God can use people in any way, shape or form to bring about his plan, and it looks like we're seeing that happening. Well, also what I wanted to do, many people ask the question, are we truly in the end times? You know, it's been 2,000 years since Christ said he was going to come back. Why is there such a big gap? And I believe the answer is absolutely in front of us, and I wanted to show you that as well. What I'll ask you to do, like always, is to watch it in full to get the full context, but smash the like button so that someone who does not know Christ may come across this and actually start that journey to find out who Christ is. And remember, if this is the type of content you like, consider subscribing. But have a listen to what Macron has just announced yesterday.
Notre dissuasion nucléaire nous protège. Elle est complète, souveraine, française de bout en bout. Elle a, depuis 1964, de manière explicite, toujours joué un rôle dans la préservation de la paix et de la sécurité en Europe. Mais répondant à l'appel historique du futur chancelier allemand, j'ai décidé d'ouvrir le débat stratégique sur la protection par notre dissuasion de nos alliés du continent européen. Quoi qu'il arrive, la décision a toujours été et restera entre les mains du président de la République, chef des armées.
Now, when it comes to Europe, obviously we see the president there of France. Europe, 27 states came together. It looks like they're at the approving an 800 billion, close to a trillion, in terms of upping the defence of Europe. But also in Poland, the Prime Minister there is talking about having every male in the country trained and ready for war. These are escalating times that we're living in, and we're seeing it happening all over the world, and we're going to get into that today. But the first thing that people ask me is, why is there such a big gap? Why is there 2,000 years? Why has it been so long since Christ said he was going to return? And when we look at Israel and kind of look at the history of Israel, the prophecies of Israel, the things spoken of, we get a much better understanding. Have a look at this for yourself.
1948 is the 100% fulfillment of Ezekiel 4. Ezekiel 4 prophesied Israel to be punished for 430 years. After 70 years of captivity in Babylon, God brought his people back onto the promised land, and disciplined them again sevenfold, according to Leviticus 26. 430 years minus 70 years in Babylon equals to 360 years. 360 years times sevenfolds equals to 2,520 Hebrew years. That is 907,200 days, which is 2,486 solar years, with 365 days per year. 2,486 solar years of punishment minus 538 BCE when the Babylonian exile ended. Is the great 1948 CE. Jesus predicted an unbelieving Israel prior to his return.
When they persecute you in one town, flee to the next. For truly I say to you, you will not have gone through all the towns of Israel before the Son of Man comes. From the fig tree learn its lesson. As soon as its branch becomes tender and puts out its leaves, you know that summer is near.
All Israel shall bear fruit to receive the Messiah.
And the surviving remnant of the house of Judah shall again take root downward and bear fruit upward. In days to come Jacob shall take root, Israel shall blossom and put forth shoots, and fill the whole world with fruit. Israel shall blossom and put forth shoots, and fill the whole world with fruit.
Now, like always, I'm not someone that sets dates, but I've noticed over the last 20 years of studying and looking into prophecy and seeing all these things happen, it's really like a woman in labour. It's after escalating so much. Not everyone will see it, because I truly believe that the world can absolutely distract you from the things of God, and that being prophecy as well. But it's very hard to push aside Israel and the absolute role that the Jews, Israel, whatever name you want to put on them, have when it comes to prophecy. And I believe that 2,000 year gap was filled with what you would have seen in the last video. But the first thing I'll say to you, Nobody knows the day or the hour. We know that said in Matthew 24 verse 36. No one knows, not the angels, not the Son, only the Father. And we're not saying we know the exact day, but Jesus kind of gave out to people because they could read the signs of the earth in terms of the weather and this, that, or the other, but they couldn't see the day of their visitation. They couldn't read those signs. And I believe that God has given us prophecy and the things like that in order to be able to see that we're drawing closer to Him returning. We'll never know the exact time, but we have to be aware of it and anticipate that His return could come soon. There's two major things I believe that are happening right now that show me we're very, very close. The first one we see in Timothy, in the prophecy he gives in that passage. He talks about in the latter times that there'll be perilous times ahead, but also the moral decline in society will be absolutely rampant, and we're seeing that happening at the moment. Morals, especially in not just in the West, but a huge amount of it is in the West. Moral decline is at an absolute all high, and it's only getting absolutely worse. One of the other major ones, most of us know the whole passage in Revelation 13 talking about the mark of the beast and how that to be implemented. You need to have a certain system in place to be able to enforce that, and I believe only today do we have that. Only today do we have the type of technology to be able to enforce something like this if it was ever called. Obviously through all the technologies that we have, and I see it in my own industry that I work in. Technology is increasing every couple of months now at an absolutely exponential rate that it's hard to keep up with. But only today are we living in a time period that John described. You have to remember, when he was seeing things in the future, he couldn't describe it because they're things he never seen. But now, with hindsight for us, we can see that we're drawing ever closer to that time period. I believe that we're very, very close to that time, but also I believe that while we're still here, we're still given the chance to share the gospel of Christ, which is the most important thing, the good news, which means anybody who's lost out there and they're questioning their journey in life and they have all different questions to why they're here. I believe that Christ fulfills all those needs. The fact that He came down, He lived, He gave up His life and died, and most importantly, He rose from the grave so that me and you could have a relationship with God and a bridge to God. Because of what Jesus done, He drew us closer to Himself, and this is the good news. Nobody is too bad for the gospel of Christ. Remember, we're seeing all the chaos happening in the world, but God's always in control, and keep the faith.